All right.
Welcome in to another episode. Ben, you might want to change your name. This is the Need for Seed college basketball podcast, Need for Seeds, on the Ben and Pitch Podcast Network. I'm your host, _G Warner. That is Big East Ben. Don't look at his name. Maybe he's not in the shadows anymore. But you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Patreon at _G Warner. Check that out. It's worth to get all my plays. Are you drinking beers? Great. Let's go. Benny, fresh off a flight from San Diego. How was the beach?
Didn't spend much time on the beach. Mostly inland for non-college basketball related stuff in my life that actually pays me a salary.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, it's California, not a great place for a gambler. I am a legitimate gambler, so I don't have any VPNs or offshore books like maybe someone else on the Zoom call.
Well, that's a mistake. And speaking of, if you do want some offshore books, please use the referral codes that are in the podcast description, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening, or watching, I guess, is still a possibility on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. We thank you for your support. And today we're doing a little bit different. Just kidding. We're going to give you ultimate best bets or our best bets at the end of show. We're going to do a 6-pack of matchups, try to make this as long as possible. So stay tuned. I'm sorry to cut you off, Benny Boy, but I figured we might as well get into this, considering we're trying to go as many games as possible on this, I guess, episode of Need for Seeds, recorded Wednesday, November 29th, recorded live. Exactly. So we'll start, I think, with a matchup that's being played on Thursday, November 30th, excuse me. Liberty visiting Florida Atlantic. We're going to play a fun game of Let's Guess the Spreads, which has been fairly embarrassing for yours truly, but it is early season, and some of these numbers are ridiculous. But this one's already out, actually, and it's very close to my guess, which I think was 8. Liberty is 7-point underdog at Florida Atlantic. Opened at 6.5, climbed to 7. The total has dropped from 147.5 points to 146 at BetOnline. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast. So what do we got on FAU? Pretty good performances against Texas A&M. I think they could have covered a 30-point spread against Virginia Tech in that final, which was good for both of us and our pocketbooks, the legal ones, of course. So what do you think?
Liberty is 40 in KenPom. I know they were good last year. Didn't get a tournament bid, but they basically have run rampant over their conference the last 3 years. Now moving to Conference USA, lost McGee 23 points a game. But yeah, I don't know why they're 40th in KenPom. They haven't beat anybody. Their best win's Vermont, which mean you got screwed on at the end there.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the reminder.
Again, but 8 points is a lot. I'm going to go with the over in this one. I think this game is going to be a track meet. Both teams shoot the 3 ball extremely well, fast tempo. Again, I think FAU wins, but again, I've been getting burned lately on 8 to 9 point betting 8 to 9 point favorites. So I'm going to go with the over.
Don't blame you, because from my college basketball experiences, fouling gets up to 9 and it stops there. But there's a lot of I don't know, forgive me, family show, but there's a lot of fuckery late in games in that last minute that unfortunately you might be covering the spread the whole time. And then we see a Vermont where they think we're covering until the shot clock was off and didn't cover against Liberty. But, you know, those things happen. Liberty, I think, is going to try to play the slowest game they can possibly play. I don't know necessarily if that's something you can do against Florida Atlantic. I think they returned everyone. They're just as good as they were last year, except a year more experience in a system. They somehow kept their coach and all their players. I'm looking to back Florida Atlantic as much as I can this year, but get ready for them to move to the American Athletic Conference, where they're going to play. I think they're a favorite in conference against Memphis to win that title, but they're going to be big, gigantic favorites, Houston style, for the rest of the season. Let's next move to Connecticut visiting Kansas. I don't think I've seen a line on this one yet, because this one I think is a Friday matchup. But I was guessing that KU would be a 3-point favorite at home to Connecticut. Tell me if I'm right.
KenPom has Kansas with a point.
Getting a point. 1 point underdog.
Kansas -1.
Okay, -1. Okay, so what I was thinking about when I was pretty much what I'm putting out there is just what I'm expecting the lines to be. Definitely, I am off, as we've heard on the show a few times, but I try to be within at least a couple points. Hard to know. But what that tells me is KU can't make them an underdog at home because they've been so dominant there for so many years. But UConn's pretty good. I don't know the last time KU was only a 1-point favorite at home in Lawrence. If I'm correct on where this game is being played. What do we think, Big Ben, about UConn this year? Because they did lose a lot of talent, though they've been really just, I was going to say a bad word. They've been crushing teams so far this year.
Yeah, shout out to Huskies for setting the NCAA record for most consecutive non-conference double-digit wins. Kind of a strange record. Hang the banner, though. Listen.
Well, they did hang a banner last year, to be fair.
Hang another banner.
Okay, there we go.
Put the non-conference one in Gamble. Yeah, I mean, they've been playing out of their minds. Cam Spencer is insane, another weapon for them. Him and Carabin make a great 1-2 punch from the outside. Tristan Newton, Mr. Double-Double. Tristan Newton.
There we go.
Mr. Triple-Double. I think he had did he have back-to-back triple-doubles, or did McCullers have back-to-back triple-doubles?
Unfortunately, they've been playing such weak competition. I don't know, though Texas was one of those weak competitions so far.
Yeah. I mean, Fog Allen's going to be rocking. I don't know if you saw the videos. Kansas student section is already sleeping in the stadium for a Friday night game, which is unbelievable. But I like the Huskies. Again, I've been extremely underimpressed by Kansas. I think they're a two-man team. It's McCullers and Dickinson. I think Wagner's regressed, honestly. And then the supporting cast: Timberlake, Marco Jackson, Furphy, the Australian. I beyond those two guys, I don't think they're anything special. I think UConn's double-digit streak over non-conference opponents is probably going to get snapped.
Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to tease it up to Huskies -9.5, but I am going to take the Huskies getting a point, getting the road win, and further solidifying the Big East as the best conference in America.
Well, I mean, way to toe the party line. First off, thank you for going out on a limb and saying that double-digit win streak will end, though there is a possibility that UConn goes in there and blows the doors off of KU. I don't see it happening. I think it'll be a close matchup. But, you could say that about any of the games we're going to highlight on this show. So I'm tempted to think that UConn is going to get a really big test here. Indiana and Texas, especially Texas without their newfound big man, who's replacing their old found big man that was basically found money end of last season. And then a really stringent out-of-conference schedule, including Northern Arizona, Stonehill, Mississippi Valley State, Manhattan, the Jaspers, who they beat by 30, and then New Hampshire, only a 20-point win. So I think this is going to be a huge test. They're not going to be playing at Madison Square Garden, which is basically Storrs southwest, I guess it would be, of Connecticut. But I would say pay heed to all those who enter the Fog, because I think Kansas will win that game. So let's move next to.
I am worried about Danny Boy maybe losing his temper out at the Fog refereeing and getting an early hook.
No. If he's a Hurley, technicals. I'm actually wearing my referee shirt just for that portion of the show. I'm sorry not to tell you to wear yours before we got on here late night, but I've seen this happen where teams go into KU looking like the better team and they don't come out of there with a win. KU -1 is probably the cheapest I can remember it. There have been some short spreads, like 3 or so on a really good year where KU was kind of undervalued, but won all their home games basically for a umpteenth Big 12 title in a row. I just have a feeling it sort of thing happens again. But if UConn passes this test, it's going to be I guess the top heavy Big East continues to be top heavy, but I think that'd be a huge statement for the markets.
Whoa, don't tell that to Butler.
Yes.
Butler looks good this year.
Yeah, don't worry. Thad Model will ruin it soon enough. We'll next move to Houston. They are on the road at Xavier in a Friday matchup, the 1st of December, almost December, baby. We're almost here. And I think I was putting that at Houston to -5, 5-point favorite. That could be way off because I got to say, Houston gets a lot of respect from the marketplace, deserved respect, but I sometimes undersell them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's been murdering teams. Haven't played a game in the single digits yet. Number one defense according to KenPom. Xavier lost at the Cintas Center the other day to Oakland.
Ooh,
Oakland.
Greg Campy, baby.
Greg Campy, who I actually used to refer to him as drunk Bob Huggins because he looked like Bob Huggins on a bender.
Ooh.
But maybe I should have been calling Huggy Bear drunk Greg Campy.
Maybe.
And Campy looked good too. Oh, he looked like he lost a lot of weight over the past year or two.
Yeah, he probably stopped He probably stopped drinking. He probably stopped drinking Pepsi. There we go.
So I mean, Xavier is 42 in KenPom. I don't, again, same story with Liberty. I don't think they're that high. They had a win over St. Mary's, who I think the public now knows is trash.
Yes.
Obviously no Hunter, no Fremantle. Cintas, you can't discount the Cintas Center. I mean, 3,000 seat arena, that place gets rocking. I'm gonna go with the under.
Ooh, okay. You're expecting a few points. So we got 136 points projected at Torvik. He's been all over the place with his favorites projections, but looking down the very long list of where Houston's an underdog, it looks like at Kansas, and that is it on February 3rd. So
both teams also 250 plus in free throw shooting, so you're gonna lose some points there as well.
Yeah, so if you're playing unders, you're probably hoping for a blowout. I think there's a much better chance the road team does that. But I also wonder what Xavier's game plan is because unfortunately, trying to stop a combination of Shed and Crier doesn't really seem to work very well. I backed Dayton in the Sunday last round of or I think it was the championship of one of the not the MTE tournaments, and I thought Dayton played really well and still lost by 14. Maybe some questionable calls by the stripes that I'm wearing at the end of that game that might have impacted covering that spread, unfortunately, but it was what it was. And I don't know. I mean, Xavier, they brought in McKnight from Western Kentucky, Olivari from Rice, some guy from Finland, I think Namiksa, however you pronounce that. Still got Desmond Claude there, got Usman from North Texas. I think they're going to be a lot better later in the season. I don't know what Sean Miller was doing scheduling this game, unless it's a Big 12, Big East thing that's forced upon them and they have no choice. Okay, sounds like it. So next we'll move to a game that we were scheduled to go to and actually might, if I do make this trip, unfortunately, I'm a little bit tempted by the last Big 12 championship for my Texas Longhorns, and it's only 35 minutes away from where I currently sit. The Marquette Golden Eagles, they are going on the road to Wisconsin, big rivalry game in Wisconsin. Unfortunately, as Big East Ben has a future on Marquette to win the national championship, that is a little bit it's not in harm's way or it's not in danger, but certainly would have looked a lot better as a number one overall team if they had successfully knocked off the previous number one KU. And
November, we'll get there.
Okay, there we go. No emotions on that side of the screen, that's for sure. But Purdue with a 3-point victory in the final of the Maui Hoops, whatever we're calling it, Maui Invitational, played in Honolulu. Marquette came back. They blew out Southern by 37 points, if my math is correct. Nice little bounce back. While Wisconsin has kind of changed their tune a little bit. I mean, controlled a Virginia team and honestly was surprising to me, blew them out in one of the holiday tournaments somewhere on some island, then beat SMU and took a nice win over the Western Illinois Leathernecks, maybe.
Great logo, Western Illinois.
Yeah, dog. I mean, when you think of things about Western Illinois, that's what you think of. But if we're going now to a home matchup, Wisconsin welcomes in Marquette, about an hour and a half drive, it seems, across its beautiful state of Wisconsin. Marquette, I feel like has been a pretty good bet in the series, but I also could be mistaken. And I'm just thinking about it off the top of my head. Torvik has Marquette a slight 1-point favorite. I think that's what I think I might even give Marquette a 3-point favorite, which I think this number is going to be shorter in the single possession, less than a possession range for the home team getting it from the road team. So I'll get off my soapbox and let you break it down for us.
Yeah, so obviously I will be there. Hopefully you will be there too. In the nosebleeds of the Kohl Center.
Ooh.
Listen, I like to
more tempted now by nosebleeds, baby.
Yeah, 300 level.
Ooh.
So I like to be all cocky and Big East brash and say we're gonna wipe the floor with them. But yeah, this is gonna be a close game. This is gonna be a tight game, rivalry game. This game at the Bradley Center went to overtime last year. That was before Marquette really got cooking. But yeah, it's gonna be. I can't figure out Wisconsin out. Got beat pretty good by Tennessee at home. Then went to the dunk and got the doors blown off by Providence, and then blew the doors off Virginia. And I'm like, all right, big whoop. Virginia must suck. And then tonight, Virginia beat Texas A&M, who I thought was a very good team, fully healthy Texas A&M.
Was Tyrese Radford playing? I don't know. I still need to watch that one, but I do know I already lost.
I know Coleman was playing. I was on a flight. I checked the box score. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tight game. It's a rivalry game. That place is going to be rocking. I'm honestly more confident that now that Marquette is the number 3 team in the country instead of being the number 1 team in the country. So I'm going to back the Golden Eagles again. Very biased, but I think again the offense is incredible. As long as they keep their heads on straight and no stupid fouls. Looking at you, Oso. Looking at you, Cam Jones. We should be okay and, outlast these guys down the stretch. But it's going to be an awesome game, and hopefully you will make the trip.
I mean, I'm very interested in watching it for sure because I want to see what this Wisconsin team is against another good challenging opponent because as a 1-point underdog at home against Marquette, that does tell me that I think Wisconsin's probably going to be a favorite against most teams at home this year. But based on how poor they were last season, and I think their up and down performances so far, it's really hard to put a number on what this Wisconsin team is. Certain power rankings are very difficult, I'm sure, though the number makers out there will forever love and overrate Wisconsin based on their efficiencies, low possession games, and that they score fairly well. I think it's probably because 3-point shots matter, which they're weak in generally, but free throws will, I think, blow up a number for a low possession game of much more than any sort of good shooting will. I'm curious also just how the interior of Wisconsin, which was so dominant against Virginia, it's a little bit different because Marquette does have Oso and Iguodaro in there to hopefully stay out of foul trouble. But he's going to create, and I think they will ultimately probably put Tyler Wall on Iguodaro. But I don't really then know where they use Crowell, their 7-footer. So maybe Crowell has to guard Iguodaro, and then that is a huge weak spot, which if he's on the floor a lot more, maybe we see what happened to Hunter Dickinson getting benched for ineffectiveness. And maybe Zach Edey wouldn't have dominated as much against Iguodaro as opposed to the New Zealand Kiwi sensation Ben Gold. So that's my biggest interest there. I think it is on almost every Marquette game going forward. And then we'll see if Wisconsin can shoot. The best place for them to do it is at home. It didn't work very well at Tennessee or at home against Tennessee. And really the 3-point numbers, besides a Virginia game that went 8 of 18, has been pretty lackluster so far this season. I guess if you look past that opener with Arkansas State, 30.8% from 3, 240th in the nation. I'm still not a believer until they make me believe. So I think I lean to Wisconsin at home because I'm not a road favorite player. Would love to see Marquette underdogs here, but also that would worry me a little bit because that would tell me the marketplace is very very interested in Wisconsin. I'm curious, Ben, what do you plan to wear to the game?
D Wade jersey.
Okay, so not a rubber yellow outfit that was once publicized going to certain sporting events.
We'll have to take that one offline.
Okay. I don't think there's any copyrights involved. I just remember a court stormer thing from way back in the day. Anyway, we'll move now to USC against Gonzaga. It's a neutral site game in Las Vegas. I expect Gonzaga to be a 3-point favorite or in that range here. USC's been a little disappointing lately, to say the least. Still don't understand how they lost the game to Oklahoma that they led. What felt to me like was throughout until the end, and somehow got a bad offensive rebound tip in to lose the game. Though it was certainly back and forth down the stretch. Gonzaga, a lot of luster has come off that program. St. Mary's, we've already talked about being a disaster, is actually favored to win the West Coast Conference, which I think has probably changed. If it hasn't changed already, it might change sooner rather than later.
Goodman finally admitted that he doesn't think they're going to make the Final Four anymore.
St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know ESPN Bet is coming out. Look forward to betting against their stat models because they're absolutely useless. I swear, I really hope there's a bet against Goodman feature once Texas legalizes gambling in 2067 or 2069 would actually be nicer. So thinking about this Gonzaga matchup, they're in Vegas where they're so used to playing. USC already played there, I think, as well against Kansas State in their opener, which was a nice cash for your boy. Torvik only has Gonzaga a 1.2 point favorite in this one, so it should be pretty close. Two teams that have pretty big front courts, but Gonzaga is certainly missing Drew Timme that they had from previous years, and it looks like a little bit of a down year. But I wonder if there are going to be some growing pains for USC trying to figure out a way to get Boogie Ellis and Collier, their 5-star McDonald's All-American or whatever they play and call it now, on the court at the same time, and trying to make the big guys make fewer and fewer mistakes because unfortunately they make a lot. What do we think about this one? And I would expect Gonzaga to have a lot more fans in Vegas because they're always there and seem to show up fairly well in a lot of numbers.
Yeah, I like the Zags in this one. I was impressed with the UCLA win in Maui, just because I came away very impressed with UCLA after the Marquette game. USC, Collier he's the guy. He's not a team player. He's doing an NBA audition. Like he got benched at the end of that Oklahoma game for just too much 1-on-1, too much turnovers. He doesn't mesh well with Ellis. I do like the guy down low. I'm blanking on his name. Morgan. Right. He had 10 blocks.
Or was it Iwuchiku, another great shot blocker? USC has shot blockers inside for days. The problem
every year
they always do, and keeping them out of foul trouble is a huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe Enfield's still coaching there. I mean, I know the school cares about football way more, but I mean the guy parlayed. What?
Go ahead, keep going.
You think you're going to defend Enfield, or you're going to defend that USC
get ready,
cares
baby.
more about basketball?
No. They definitely don't care about basketball. I mean, no one in their entire, I think, school cares about sports. They might care about football a little bit, but based on going to a game at the Coliseum, not sure. And certainly nowhere else do they care about college basketball, it seems, at that program.
Yeah, I mean, Enfield, good for him for starting that healthcare company, making $20 million and marrying a supermodel and taking her out to Taco Bell on their first date or whatever the story is.
Yes,
the guy is completely underwhelmed despite getting, 5-star talent after 5-star talent to USC. Not to, give a more macro take on USC. I know we're talking about the Gonzaga game. But again, I think
it's your show, baby. Do whatever you want. Come on.
I'll take Nemhard over Collier any day, any day of the week. I think he matches up well with Morgan down low. I think the Zags, have some more reversion to the mean in terms of their 3-point shooting. Right now, they're 248th in the country. Not good. But yeah, again, give me the Zags just purely because I don't think USC is a real team. I think it's a audition tape.
A fractured mess, you could say. I would agree that Gonzaga should have some crowd support. That helps. It's a big deal to me in college basketball. I feel like something's worth handicapping, especially in these recorded events. I would also agree that trying to figure out, because that first game, I feel like against Kansas State, Boogie Ellis and Collier were playing point guard separately. So one was on the court at one time, one was on the other court at other times. So they're going to have to figure out a way to get them together. Two ball dominant guard is not a great situation, but Boogie Ellis is, I think, going to probably be the one that shoots the three more. I think Collier is more of a strong take your man off the dribble type of player, but we'll see where that goes. I think for that reason, I'm a little bit more concerned about USC and trying to get that backcourt to gel, because ultimately I think that's the most important thing in this sport. It's sad that you've looked past Andy Enfield. It was Elite Eight run in 2021, his making the NCAA tournament the last 2 years as well. He gets there, he gets a program that doesn't.
Oh yeah, with no fans.
With no fans, they get to the tournament every year, man. And they made it to the Elite
No,
Eight.
wait, what year did they make the Elite Eight?
2021.
Yeah, so there's no fans in the stands. Mickey Mouse Elite Eight.
I mean, he did have some Mobley brothers that played fairly well to get. They usually have some player that's NBA quality, sure, and that you could use that as a knock against them. But also, how many players of that quality are USC getting? Plus, he has this Bronny James guy who is also around. So, hopefully this didn't freeze, because I'm getting a notification to force quit applications and I'm frantically doing that. But if you can hear me, Ben, then I think
You're good. You froze for a sec, but you're good.
Okay, cool. Especially hope we make sure we can record this, but we'll ultimately see. So that is our 6-pack of college basketball games for this episode of the Need for Seeds podcast.
We got one more.
What did we forget?
St. John's.
Oh, sorry. We got one more. That was a 5-pack. We don't do 5-packs. My abs are 6. So let's go St. John's. They are on the road at West Virginia. And I'm actually thinking that St. John's will be favored here. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but I feel like I've been a lot more negative about West Virginia than anyone else has, besides potentially the police officers in Pittsburgh that arrested Bob Huggins. But it's to me, I've been impressed by what St. John's has put together. I think their backcourt's only going to get better, and West Virginia seems like a mess to me. So let's see, where does that number fit or fall? That would probably be the first thing I'd like to hear.
So KenPom, give me a second. Let me run the model.
I got a 1-point favorite West Virginia according to Torvik, but that's based on this year's efficiencies, maybe off that big 4-point win over Bellarmine. That was a huge thing for them. The losses on a neutral to Virginia by 2, SMU by 12, a home loss to Monmouth, who I think King Rice has been unemployed for a long time now, so I don't think that you can blame it on that. It's been a while.
So Torvik, KenPom has West Virginia as a 1-point favorite.
Okay, so everyone has West Virginia a favorite. Great. Ben and I have both been to a great West Virginia Texas game. Even Ben took a nice picture in front of reserve for Coach Huggins, which if I can find a way to upload that, I'll find a way for our ending episode credits. What do we think about West Virginia this year, Benny? What are your thoughts on a team that is trying to build around Jesse Edwards? I was wondering where he went, and I finally found him.
Yeah. Syracuse could use a guy like that.
They looked pretty good the other night, I gotta say.
They did, and I was going to bet them. I had the tweet drafted,
but California.
I was in California. I was also thinking of taking the Mississippi. We think alike. I was going to take Mississippi too, and then I was going to take Miami first half. And I walked into a nice team dinner. So I saw on the TV Miami was up by 1 with a minute and a half left. Kentucky quickly closed the 6-0 run, and I was a happy camper for being in California.
Yeah, I would have loved to watch that, but watch ESPN is an absolute disaster on all the games I want to see, unfortunately.
Yeah, keep tweeting at them.
I'm going to try. If they're going to have to learn to recognize or else maybe they won't.
Yeah. So West Virginia, Josh Eilert. I know you were put in a tough position with your coach, thinking he was in Pennsylvania. What happened? He
I
thought he was
think
in Ohio.
I think he was in Pittsburgh area and thought he was in West Virginia. Said he was just driving home, but he lived a long way away. And I think, I don't want to dish on a guy that almost made out with Deshaun Butler on the floor when he tore his ACL. But it doesn't seem to be a great scenario for West Virginia, though. We know that the one state university that matters in athletics, they're going to have a lot of fans there. Probably going to be a student section making fun of Rick Pitino for a while. But ultimately, there is a guy that I don't think they can defend in Soriano. His girth, though, I'm sure he's dealt with Jesse Edwards. Maybe that length could bother him. But the rest of that team looking around, Slazinski, Kobe Johnson, I don't know where West Virginia gets their stops.
Yeah, and also, I mean, St. John's number 2 in the country in offensive rebounding, like you said. Soriano's a beast. Also, I mean, you gotta retire the press Virginia, Nick. I know they haven't pressed for a number of years, but still, their bread and butter is turnovers. 338th in the country in forcing turnovers against very subpar competition. Like you said, the Bellarmine win by 4, also lost to Monmouth. St. John's has looked good recently after that blowout against Michigan. I know they had that big lead against North Texas and squeaked by, but they, good win over a good Utah program this year. So yeah, I mean, I think again that's a very tough place to play, the Coliseum. We've obviously seen that firsthand. But I think, Pitino gets, his first signature Power 6 win over the Mountaineers.
And then we'll see how well that ages. Though technically, Pac-12 is still a power conference, at least for a few more days until it combusts like spontaneously. So thank you for tuning in, as always, to Need for Seeds podcast. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe for an Apple Podcast or Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. It's huge. And if you write something that's related to Need for Seeds on any sort of comment that gives us a 5-star review, I will have at Big East Ben read it live the next time I see it. So make sure you go out and do that. And I think that'll be fun for everyone, especially because we can test Ben and his reading comprehension skills. So what do we got for your best bet for this episode of Need for Seeds on the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network?
Yeah, this best bet, Saturday game, so the line's not out. But if it sticks with the KenPom line of,
that's always a good spot to guess where we're going to see an opener. So we can assume that is the line until we have one.
Yeah. So if I was to tell you a pretty middling road team was a favorite in Piscataway, what would you say?
This is a different Rutgers team.
The Rutgers look pretty good against. I mean, I watched them. I know it was Georgetown. They look pretty good against Georgetown. But yeah, I mean, I think.
I'm a huge believer in Steve Peichel. It's gonna get fixed at some point. I just see Paul Mulcahy playing for Washington, missing free throws at the end of a game, which does remind me of Rutgers for sure. The rack is tough, or Jersey Mike's as they call it now, or whatever the heck sandwich shop it's called. Go ahead.
Yeah, but again, it's more of a support of the rack and an indictment against Illinois. Illinois, I think, is very dependent on their secondary guys to make threes. The 2 white guys, I'm blanking on their names. That doesn't happen.
Goody is one of them. Goody,
and then it begins with a D. Foreign guy.
Goody.
Yeah, I don't think that happens at the rack. I think Rutgers a little more motivation with the that number 2 recruit pulling out. I think Rutgers at the rack, 1-point underdog against Illinois team that has not impressed me this season. Give me the Knights.
So this is the Need for Seeds podcast on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network. You just heard Big East Ben give Rutgers +1 as his best bet for this episode. I'm actually going to go for a Thursday, November 30th game, one that we have a line for already. Since we have Big East Ben on the line, surprised he didn't grab this one already. But I'm going to go with the Butler Bulldogs, the 1.5 point favorite to Texas Tech. They are playing at home, Hinkle Fieldhouse, tough place to go into. Butler have impressed, I think, compared to a lot of the rest of the world so far in college basketball, where most teams have been disappointing. Slight favorite. Texas Tech is literally going to throw up 3-point shots. They did it all in the Battle for Atlantis tournament or whatever MTE they played earlier this season. I don't really expect Texas Tech to do very well on the road with that type of strategy. I don't really believe that they have a lot inside either. The Butler side, they've looked better so far. I think they ride the home crowd to a victory, and 1.5 points at home is short enough for me. So that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch, or on the Betting the Pitch podcast network of the Need for Seeds podcast. We will be back Wednesday night, hopefully a little bit earlier next week, but sometimes flights get delayed, or beers need to be drunk, or whatever the heck the excuse is on the other side from the Von Dutch hat. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for, as always, giving us your support. Leave us a 5-star review on any sort of place that you watch. Big East Ben, I almost called him Big Ben. He's not a clock tower, but he's sometimes called a something tower. So enjoy your night, enjoy your week. Take our best bets and win yourself some money, because that's what we're doing here, and that's what we do on the Need for Seeds podcast. Are you going to salute?
I love the Butler bet, by the way. That was gonna, if you're gonna give me a Big East best bet, I love the Butler bet. Tell Fort's legit. Tell that one. We're both on it.
There we go.